School is full inclusion. However, we have identified 4 students who are in need of a pullout setting. So the class is composed of 4 students, each varying in disabilities. The space is fairly small, but we make it work. We have a projector. We also have an easel that we work with. It is composed, so 4 students. I teach math. They all have, like I mentioned, are identified differently, as well as their behaviors are very different. Each is unique, and each requires, various strategies and support to get them through the lesson. We do tend to go at a slower pace in comparison to their peers outside in the gen ed setting. But we try to work as much. If we can, we spend 2 days on a lesson. We break it in half. Otherwise, if we see that they're going and they got it, then we move on with the lesson and just complete it in 1 day.
So are you keeping up with the lessons with gen ed? You're following the same curriculum?
Same curriculum, same standard. The only difference is the pace. If my students require more time, we will give them more time.
Okay. So in this particular lesson that you're going to be doing, I did get a look at the lesson plans you gave me, so I noticed it was SYMMETRY.
Right.
So what are some of the strategies you think that you're going to be using, or any of the things that come from the curriculum possibly? I know there might be some ideas in there.
Yes, so our TE, our teacher book, it gives us strategies. So because it is line of symmetry, we are going to be using a lot of hands-on materials, cutting pieces of paper, and understanding, how, the same is on both sides. Also reviewing the vocabulary, because we do have a student who's an English language learner who may or may not understand some of the vocabulary. So just going over it, getting the definitions of certain words, just to make sure that he understands, as well as using line of symmetry in real life examples. I think it's important that they can relate to the topic.
Making it relatable to them.
Making it relatable,
Okay, so it sounds like you got some good activities planned just so they understand the concept. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that. The things that you're having difficulty with in there, whether it's content or just classroom management. What are some of the areas?
Well, I think the biggest area is, one, keeping them engaged in the lesson, and supporting and helping them out with the behaviors that they are presenting. Their behaviors can be a little bit distracting, and not only distracting to myself, but distracting to the rest of the students. You have one student who may shout out a comment, and then the others laugh, or the others get bothered by it. So just keeping them engaged in the lesson, keeping them engaged on what they're supposed to do, and helping them not make those choices, because I feel like I'm having a difficult time with reinforcing, how often am I reinforcing their positive behavior? Because I do get stuck when it is, when I'm in the lesson, and then one is behaving great, but I miss it because one is behaving bad.
Got it.
So I tend to focus on the bad rather than the good. And I haven't been able to balance that out.
So while I'm observing, would you feel comfortable with me kind of taking notes on that in terms of maybe when an opportunity was missed for positive reinforcement? Versus that negative reinforcement that's given?
Right. I think so, because that's my biggest. Because I know, we as special ed teachers, we work towards the positive reinforcement rather than the negative. But I'm catching myself doing the opposite. And, and it's not only going to benefit the kids, but myself as well.
So definitely creating a safe and learning environment for them to be in. And I know we've talked about token economy. So how has that gone? I know we've kind of partnered with one another to see what's been in place. So what do we currently have in place, and how is it working?
And that is part of that reinforcement. We do have the chart where students fill it out at the end of every class. It asks 4 questions. It has a visual, a sad face, a okay face, and a super happy face, so that the students can evaluate their behavior, and evaluate their productivity in the classroom.
So they're doing it on their own.
They're doing it on their own.
So they're self-monitoring.
They self-monitor, yes. And then I know you and I, we wanted to increase that, and so now I've implemented the star. So when they get a star, they get 2 extra points, so 2 extra tickets. However, we did see that sometimes we do need certain consequences. So we did implement the X, which the X means that they lose their 2 extra tickets. So,
Okay.
you know, it's sort of a back and forth. And that is where I feel I'm lacking in, where I am easy to give an X rather than a star.
Okay.
Because I am so just consumed with the behavior and me wanting to correct it.
Okay.
Rather than, you know, understanding that those behaviors are going to occur, but let's focus on the positive.
Yeah.
Any little positive. Not just they have to get the answer right, but just even if they're looking at me,
the focusing.
I should be, but I tend to.
Yeah, and it's difficult when you're teaching. Sometimes you do lose sight of that, and that's why it's good to sit down and be able to dialogue with someone and have someone really determine like if there was opportunities missed or not. So I'll definitely be looking for that during the time I'm in there observing.
Okay. Right.
So once we have a system in place that we could really use in there and it's effective, we can keep moving forward with the lesson.
Exactly, I agree.
Okay, so I'll be observing you. It'll be about 30 minutes or so that I'll be in there, just so you know.